Good evening.
Good evening.
Would like to call the Trotwood-Madison City School District regular meeting to order December 12th, 2019, here at the Board of Education offices to order. Mrs. Allen, will you call the roll?
Mr. Andrews,
Yes.
Mrs. Bozeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Jeter Freeman,
Yes.
and Ms. Moore.
Yes. Meeting has been called to order. Please join us in a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I now need a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll move.
Second.
It's been moved and I have a second. Any questions, additions, changes to the agenda this evening? There is a change. And the change is going to be, we're going to add a board item. So it will be number 2. Everything else is going to be subsequent numbers. So it'll be a board item. And the board item A will be to recommendation to approve the acting superintendent's contract for the period January 1, 2020 through July 31st, 2020. Ms. Allen? And action will be taken. No other? Will you please call the roll?
I will. Mrs. Jeter Freeman,
Yes.
Mr. Andrews,
Yes.
Mrs. Bozeman,
Yes.
and Ms. Moore.
Yes. We will now have a motion to go into executive session to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, or the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual per Board of Education Policy 0166 and ORC 121.22. Need a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Being none, Ms. Allen, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Bozeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Jeter Freeman,
Yes.
Mr. Andrews,
Yes.
and Ms. Moore.
Yes, motion passes. We will now enter into executive session at 5:03 PM. Okay, we are out of executive session at 6:37. And we will reconvene with the meeting. Next item up, with the revision to the agenda, item 2, and that's board item 1, or board item A. It's recommendation to approve the acting superintendent's contract for the period January 1, 2020 through July 31st, 2020, and I need a motion.
I'll move.
I second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any questions? Being none, Ms. Allen, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Jeter Freeman,
Yes.
Mr. Andrews,
Yes.
Mrs. Bozeman,
Yes.
and Ms. Moore.
Yes, motion passes. Next item up, community comments.
There are none.
Okay. Next item is our consent agenda. We have consent agenda item A, approval of meeting minutes from November 6th, 2019, November 7th, 2019, November 21st, 2019. Item B, approval of permanent cash transfer of funds, December 12th, 2019. Item C, approval of FY20 amended appropriations. Item D, acceptance of donations for the district middle school. And item E, approval of personnel agenda. I need a motion.
I'll move.
Oh, I'm sorry. These are, let's see. Okay, got a motion.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any questions? Being none, Ms. Allen, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Jeter Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Bozeman,
Yes.
Mr. Andrews,
Yes.
and Ms. Moore.
Yes, motion passes. Consent agenda is approved. Treasurer's report?
Yes. I have a couple things for you this evening, November financial reports. We have the cash reconciliation report for November, and you can see at the top, bank statement balances, $2.9 million. Our investment balances, $31.5 million. Total bank and investment cash balances is $34,506,938.85. There were adjustments for vendor checks and there were payroll adjustments. Those totaled $731,487.10. If you subtract that from the investment bank and investment cash balances, that leaves $33,775,451.75. And that balances exactly to our Meta Solutions financial system. The second report is our SM2 that indicates our monthly actuals and our fiscal year-to-date actuals for both our revenues and expenditures. And at the bottom, you will see the ending cash balance and the outstanding encumbrances. The last report is our checks over $1,000. And we met very briefly this afternoon, and the Finance Committee members, Mrs. Bozeman and Mrs. Jeter Freeman, perused the list of checks and had questions on some of the checks. And so I pulled these checks. So the first check was check 93792. That was for professional development for Mother Bruner Catholic School. Check 93847 to Leaving the Village was for full registration for the restorative justice staff to attend a 2-day event on November 4th through the 5th, 2019. Check 9350 in the amount of $4,283.28 was for the JROTC Military Ball Catering. Check 93854 in the amount of $181,465.50 was to Montgomery County Educational Service Center for the Summer Rise program. And check 93773 in the amount of $3,190 was for dancer costumes. And the last check 93801 to the ESC was for special education services. And so those, I think, are 6 checks. The Finance Committee members wanted those pulled. And so if you have any questions, hopefully I can answer those. And if I can't, I will pull those and get back with you in an email. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you. I need a motion to accept Treasurer's Item A.
I move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Seeing none, Ms. Allen, will you call the roll?
Yes. Mrs. Jeter Freeman,
Yes.
Mr. Andrews,
Yes.
Mrs. Bozeman,
Yes.
and Ms. Moore.
Yes, motion passes. Next item is the superintendent.
Good evening, first of all.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We do have some information with regards to some of the intent or plans for the donations. I'm gonna ask Ella Jordan Isaacs to come up to just kind of give you guys a very brief overview about one of the projects we would like to initiate.
Good evening, Madam President, Mr. Howard, Ms. Allen, members of the board. Working with 2 companies, one being JC, because they've been collaboratives that provide uniforms for our students, working with JC Penney and another company, ePolo, who has inventory in stock and ready to go. They are moving their company in a different direction. So I'm in the process of getting quotes, looking at making purchases in 3 phases. Phase 1 would be long sleeve polos and perhaps cardigan sweaters. Phase 2 would then be fleece jackets. Phase 3 would be coats. I will be speaking with Mr. Howard and requesting anywhere from $6,600 to $9,300 to purchase their entire stock, and it is outrageous, the numbers that they have in stock, all sizes, that could accommodate our district K-12.
And one of the focuses is that Ella and I talked about, we just kind of discussed the issue of how some of our students come to the district and they lack layers. They'll come with a light coat and their uniform shirt, regardless of whatever reason. We felt it would be a good investment for us to try to layer our young, especially some of our youngest kids. So that's when we talk about the cardigan sweaters, the long sleeve shirts, the polo shirts, the long sleeve polos and the fleece jackets, just to try to, help with some of those kids that, that just come without, the adequate clothing during the winter time. So we'd like to move quickly on that to try to get those as soon as we can. But that was the intent with that, just to try to help build layers for our young people.
I would like to mention, sir, that I'm finding out that seasonal merchandise really makes a difference. So as companies are depleting inventory, we will need to move very expeditiously to make sure that we capture what we can for our pre-K-12 students.
I did, but I think Mr. Howard kind of answered it. And this is going to be for pre-K through 12th grade.
Yes.
Okay.
Jacket sizes as large as double XL, triple XL.
Okay.
We've got a wide variety of sizes of it at this time.
And one of the entities we're tapping into initially is our bus drivers, as they're identifying kids that are getting on the bus, that are lacking layers, that have on light jackets, that don't have hats, don't have gloves. We're asking them to start writing down some names, and of course, with the the young people that were affected by the natural disaster as well. We already have that list of names, but some other young people that are being identified as just lacking the proper clothing for the winter.
It's interesting and kind of coincidental. I was at the middle school today helping with judging their science fair. And there were a couple of adults who came up and mentioned that they had noticed that some of our kids were kind of underdressed for the weather at the middle school level. And they were asking, was there anything being done or being, attention being drawn to that? Because I know a lot of times the primary and elementary grades get a lot of direct attention about their needs and things. And they were wondering if these older kids were being considered. So yeah, this.
And I think in the 20 years I've been here, that issue has always been
right.
You get kids that come with, quarter length socks and footies and the same uniform shirts they had on, and I think Ella did a good job of identifying that as being an area we could start utilizing the funds, and we'd like to jump on that initially.
Yeah, I didn't even think about the socks, but the socks.
Mm-hmm.
And still wear footies. You can still wear footies.
Oh, yeah.
It's 19 degrees outside.
Mm-hmm.
So those are some of the things that we're going to try to invest some of those funds in.
That's my only question, Board and Mr. Howard, is do we need an item on the agenda just as documentation along the lines when we are spending any of those donations, and even working with JCPenney's and all of those guys, just so that if we're ever audited or if it ever comes back, the board did approve it, because things happen and things get lost and people change hands and move around. But if they ever go back into the board agendas, they can see that we had a conversation and it was an item for recommendation to partner with these entities up to an amount of, I don't know, we can just say for what we're getting, an amount up to $10,000 or $15,000 or what have you, just so that we got the information.
We could possibly do it like we do the donations. And just put it in on letterhead and just submit it to the board and put it on the agenda.
Let's do that.
Like that.
What were the two companies that you said initially? I didn't hear you.
J.C. Penney,
Mhm.
I've spoken with corporate today, and E. Pluno, and it's the
E.
initial
Pluno?
E
Uh-huh.
hyphen, P as in Paul, L-U, N as in Nancy, O.
My only question would be, would the procedural aspect of that hold us up from going ahead and starting to purchase the,
But when do you need to purchase them?
we like to do it like tomorrow, once we get the process. Yeah, but as soon as we can, yeah, as soon as we
Because,
can.
of course, they're still selling merchandise.
Mhm.
Tomorrow is that's a facetious
Well,
comment, but we'd like to.
If Janice doesn't,
Yeah, I was gonna say, could you all today say as a consensus, board consensus, that you're saying you're allowing them to spend up to 10, just like you said, President Moore, up to $10,000? Could that be a kind of precursor to them spending, and you giving approval to spend up to $10,000?
well, we'd have to adjust the agenda to put that on there. And, could it be kind of like a then and now or not? No, because it's donations, right?
And I was just gonna say, it wouldn't necessarily have to be a formal vote. That you
Okay,
all
right.
are
We get,
agreeing.
yeah,
That's
we're
what I'm
all
just saying,
agreeing.
you
We're
all
all in
are
agreement. Yeah, we're all in,
Yeah.
I'm in agreement. You guys in agreement?
Because
Yeah.
I don't know that we approved for all the other spending of the money, did we?
Have they, what else have we spent? I think we need to capture records because
Yeah,
this
we
is,
can,
We haven't tapped into any of that.
I didn't think you had.
No, we haven't
the
tapped
money
into any of
yet.
that now.
And so if we do that as we go, because I think we're all gonna be in agreement with whatever we need to do for
Yeah.
kids. I mean, if it's 20,000 or 30,000, we're gonna be in agreement. We just need to make sure we document it.
What if we, as these types of projects come up, we prepare the memo and we present it to the board for information? Just let you guys know before we move on anything like that, but just prepare it and give it to you for information. I don't know if you want to actually,
But what about now? When you say-
well, now is different,
Yeah,
yeah.
now we're just consenting, you know, we're all good with it, but I'd like to see it on the next agenda.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and then as it happens, we continue to put it on the agenda.
right.
Okay, all right. You got that? All right. Okay. Superintendent's item B, just an update with Five Rivers. Five Rivers has obtained partial occupancy of the facility. They are still waiting on clearance and approval of one of the water suppression systems in the back. But the county has given them partial occupancy. So what that means is they are at this point, they have started to move items into the facility. Their folks were here Tuesday, Wednesday. They've been here today. They're actually functionally starting to move into the facility. And after the meeting, if you like, I have a key. And if you just like to walk back and get a sneak peek, that's totally up to you. I informed them that I would like to open up the doors to show the board if they were interested in going. It's an incredible facility. When you go back here and see it, it's state of the art. And we're really excited about the partnership. With that being said, we are, I want to say tentatively, but very hard tentatively, going to proceed with a open house grand opening on January 7th. The time is 5:30 to 7, and that's Tuesday, January 7th. And I wanted to see if that date worked with everybody. I think I sent it President Moore ahead of time, but I just wanted to make sure that worked with everybody.
I think I sent that.
Yeah, I think you did.
I sent that to the board. I sent that on. I passed it on.
So
What time, January, what?
January 7th,
We got all these dates. Because we got something on the 6th.
Right.
Okay.
did.
Tuesday, January 7th,
Monday.
5:30 to 7 p.m. There will be sort of an open house. Five Rivers will be managing an open house with some light hors d'oeuvres, and I get it right. Yeah, I get it right. And then at 6, there'll be a very brief program. We are working with Catapult Creative and the marketing folks from Five Rivers. Once all of that is formulated, they'll put together some invitations to send the dignitaries, folks in the community. The city will play a little role in that as well. But I wanted to make sure you guys had that on your calendar as early as possible. And it's a state-of-the-art facility, and we're really excited about the partnership. We're still working out some of the kinks of if little Johnny gets sick at the ELC, how we're gonna get him over here. We're still working that out, because ultimately that comes with a cost to us as well. Those are some of those auxiliary costs that we got to start paying attention to. But we think we're gonna work through some things. Custodial, who's gonna clean that back there? You know, some of our custodians like, I don't want to go back there because of what the nature of what's going on back there. You know, so we've got to work through some of that, but we think we'll be okay.
Do we need any additional parental forms?
Great point. We have already done that.
Okay.
So we've sent all of those out. You may have received one, a big blue form. So with that, it is what they call a lifetime consent form. So if Ms. Bozeman's son, just using him as an example, if she signs off on it today, he, from this point on through his high school career, he does not have to fill out the form anymore.
Okay.
So all of that has been managed and taken care of. All of the billing will go through them. All of the HIPAA stuff goes through them. All we're responsible for is disseminating the information, giving parents the information, and then the parents choose whether or not they want to use the facility. And really, it's targeted for our underprivileged students and underprivileged, underserved folks. So Medicaid will be a big aspect back there as well. So, but they've got folks in place, they're managing all that, and we're excited about it. So if you want to browse,
I'd like to see it after.
Yeah. Okay.
Next up, treasurer's comments. We don't have any discussion items or updates, so we'll just.
I did have a couple things. Okay, I had the opportunity to be a judge today at the middle school science fair, which was phenomenal. There were like 200 projects, and the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students participated. It was phenomenal. So it was great. And some of the projects two of the projects I judged was do gloves improve the chances of catching a ball? Another project was, does spring water make plants grow bigger? And it did, by the way. Also, I wanted to congratulate, I think she left, Mrs. Angela Bruno and her concert choir for representing the Trotwood-Madison district at the Dayton Contemporary Dance Company, DCDC, this past weekend. I took my mom and my niece and my best friend and her friend, and it was a phenomenal, and I was so proud of Trotwood-Madison.
Oh, nice.
So we even got a plug in terms of the state as well. And then I just am really excited about us winning state. Well, those are the things I wanted to say.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Howard.
Miss Allen did kind of steal some of my thunder with the science fair. It was a very, very nice event. Had a lot of engaging projects. Had a lot of folks coming in helping judge. And you know, if it's the board's pleasure, once we identify those winners, maybe we can bring them up here and recognize them as we do some other things. So I'll follow up with you guys a little later once we identify who those winners are. And then, of course, as we all know, what a state championship game. I saw this entire crew here, and you know, the energy and the excitement and the kids, and as many folks as we could take down there, we could, and it turned out to be a great evening. Hopefully, if we're as good as we are this year, next year, it'll be in Columbus.
Yeah.
And we don't have to go that far. We can take the whole town with us.
All right.
But it was definitely a great experience. That's all I have.
All right. How about Mr. Andrews?
Well, everybody stole my thunder for a moment. But I would like to say, also add in that the science fair was very impressive, volume of projects. And there were a lot of young people who were doing their first project. And it was interesting talking with a lot of them. They had some good ideas, and they're very polite, very polite. and that was kind of refreshing, and so it was a good day and very enjoyable. Also, I would like to put in a plug. I went over a few weeks ago to the Elk, and I went through the building with Mr. Warner, and we went to the sensory room. And if you have not been, you need to see it. It's pretty neat. I was impressed. I was ready to get in there and lay out a couple of little things that they have in there for the kids myself. I mean, it is really an amazing room. And with dealing with all of the things that we are now aware of with students in terms of their behaviors and difficulties adjusting and all those things, this room is really a fantastic place. And then also, of course, state champs again, and never get tired of that. And this year, because I had a little falling out with DirecTV, I have Time Warner, and so I had the pleasure of having a DVR, and I could record the game. So I was telling my wife that I watched it again on Sunday, and we won again. So
We're gonna watch it again. We're gonna win for a
yeah, we're
third
gonna keep
time.
with it, and another one. But yeah, it was a good week. It was a good week.
Oh, okay. Anything else, Mr. Andrews?
No.
Okay, thank
No,
you. Ms. Bozeman, Mr. Scares had to leave, so.
So everyone stole my thunder, except I didn't go to the science fair, but
I didn't
yes.
either. I didn't. Norman
But-
went, by the way. Mr. Scares went to science fair.
But yeah, great game. I'm looking forward to a great new year, and thank you guys for hanging in here with us tonight.
Yeah. Ms. Tudor Freeman.
Well, I'll start CTC. They're expanding, if you hadn't noticed. So it should be completed in 2023, I believe. So they're trying to figure out how to shuffle students while they renovate parts of it. But we got to see a digital diagram of how it would look. And it will be totally state of the art. So it looks it'll be amazing. I just wish they could accommodate even more than they do right now. And I think they had open house of about 3,500 students because my mentee at the high school, she already plans to attend in photography next year. And the one thing, I didn't make it to the beginning of the state championship reception, but I was at the game. And, they called back 2 touchdowns. And if you notice, the one thing that our young men have been taught is adversity, to play through it. Because in every game, we get the calls against us, but some kind of way, they play through it. It's like they factor that in. They factor in that, they're gonna get some bad calls. So the part of what I did hear some of the students say, it was hard work, that they felt like it was a family, even the students that transferred. And they they called each other family, they loved each other, and that the coaches pushed them. But what they repeated more than once was that it was hard work. But our students are up to the challenge, and I think it will be a great year. And thank you all for what you do, and have a really, really nice Christmas.
Could I add one little thing?
No?
No.
No. No, go right ahead, Mr. Andrews.
And just based on what Ms. Jeter Freeman just said, because it just reminded me of that. A few weeks ago out at the Montgomery County Fairgrounds, they had the Indulge event. I don't know if anybody knows what that is. They have small vendors and local vendors who are doing startups and creating their own businesses, and they are able to go out there and sell and promote their products. And there was one lady there, and I cannot remember her name. And I should be able, she walked in the door, I'll probably call it out. But anyway, long story short, she is designing her own clothing line. And her son graduated last year. And he played football and basketball. And he is now at, I think it's Denison. I think that's where he's at. But anyway, he's playing football. And I asked how he was doing, and she said that he was starting and he was doing really well. And she said that Coach Graham and staff had really prepared them well. And when he got there, it didn't matter what they were putting on them to do, he was able to do it. And he was very comfortable with and very confident in what he was able to do. And she mentioned that a number of other new athletes coming into that program quit because they couldn't take it. But he said it was nothing compared to what he had to deal with here. So the training and the hard work and things and the workmanship that they ingrain and instill in our young men does carry over as they go on out in those that are able to extend their career. And I'm assuming that it's also doing the same thing for a lot of them with their other careers that if they can't continue with athletics. And Amari Davis, if you've not watched, if you turn on TV and you see that, I'm sorry, but if you see that the University of Wisconsin Green Bay is playing, that's where he's at. The first 2 or 3 games this year, he came off the bench and was a leading scorer, and they're talking about him. And they're talking about, as a matter of fact, the last game that I saw, they played Wisconsin. And they were mentioning that he was an all-state player and a Mr. Basketball candidate, and he was the leading scorer. They even put up a little box insert on the screen that showed how much he's been scoring. And the fact that he's now starting, they couldn't understand how he got passed over by so many or missed by so many other people because they were just impressed with him. And these were Big Ten announcers, not the announcers for that particular school. So he's doing real well too.
Okay, thank you.
I'm done.
You sure?
I think yeah.
Okay, well, everybody stole my thunder, so I just want to say that the game was amazing. And we are just so proud. I'm so proud, and parents were just so supportive. And when I came to Saturday's event, it was so good to see community out there just rah, 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 go Rams. And I've gotten a lot of texts from other districts that are just congratulating us, that are just so proud. They feel like they're part of our district family as well. So again, it's just been an incredible, it's been an incredible year. It truly has. And that's because of you. It's because of what you do. It's because of the day-to-day grind that goes on in every building, in every department, in every entity in this district. And for that, we are grateful and we say thank you. Thank you for your hard work. I want to say also, Mr. Howard, you did a really wonderful job with coordinating the transportation for everything, but for this game. You and I had some conversations and we got real busy just making it happen the way that it needed to happen, and it was seamless. We got everybody home. We got everybody there who wanted to go. We had room. They were in style and comfort. So really appreciate that, because that was somewhat of a logistical nightmare, wondering what we were going to do. And the fact of the matter is we kept the district open for all those students that needed to be here, wanted to be here. For the parents, we didn't inconvenience them. But then on the other side, we made it possible for all the other students. So thank you, Mr. Howard, for taking care of that. Really appreciate it. Other than that, I just want to say Merry Christmas. Have a Happy New Year. Thank you for being here with us. And, we appreciate you. Next, we need to talk about the appointment of the President Pro Tem. And this is our public discussion. At the beginning of every year, we have our organizational meeting. And during that organizational meeting, we appoint one of the board members to officiate that part of the meeting. So our meeting will probably start at 5 o'clock. That's the first half, organizational meeting, and then the real meeting will open up at 5:30. So I'm open to anyone who wants to do that, to be the President Pro Tem. And basically, you just open up the meeting and start the meeting and follow the agenda and do what we've done. I know, Myra, you've never done that, correct?
Yeah, I can
Would
do
you
that.
like to
Yeah,
do that?
that's fine.
All right. Perfect. It's okay. Have Myra do it. All right. So Janice, Myra will be that person. All right. Okay. Any other discussions that come before the board? With that said, I need a motion for adjournment.
I move.
A second.
Okay, it's been properly moved in second. Any questions? Any reservations? Being none, Ms. Allen, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Jeter Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Bozeman.
Yes.
Mr. Andrews.
Yes.
And Ms. Moore.
Yes. Motion passes. Meeting adjourned.